Good evening, class. Let's start out with this here. How many of you have heard this old saying, two peas in a pod? Well, let's see if we can get to work for our hot peppers here. Today I'm going to talk about cold packing hot peppers. I've been doing this for about a decade, and I think I can do it in my sleep. I prefer this method over freezing them or just jarring them because it keeps them longer and also keeps their taste. It's a process that I've learned while working at Abruzzi's Cafe 422 here, which is a local family restaurant. They've been making these hot peppers since 1962, and since then the owner himself went out on his own and started his own business, and he's selling them in the local stores. First, let's start out with some of the supplies I use for canning here. It's actually pretty simple. Of course, you got your peppers, and then I use gloves, apron, and then I also like to listen to some music. I'll go in the recipe here in a little bit. With the volume which we make here, I try to get two people to help me because we are making 50 bushels a week, and that's a lot to do just myself. If you end up doing 1 or 2 bushels, or maybe even 5 bushels, it wouldn't be too bad for one person to do it here. Second, well, let's start with the working area. I like to use a clean, sanitized table. On the table, you got your bowls, you got your knives for cutting up the peppers, or in my situation, I use a vegetable slicer. And then you got your jars, quarts, or pints. And then you also have your little pot, which you cook on the stove with, dealing with that. Now the recipe itself here, it's very simple. The main ingredients here with this is granulated garlic, oregano, and vegetable oil. That's all we use here in what we added to them. So very simple, very cost efficiency, and it'd be very easy to do. Process itself is a 2-day process. On the first day, what we do is we wash the peppers first and make sure that there isn't any bad peppers or anything else in the peppers which shouldn't be. Next step on this is we would cut the stems off them because we don't want to eat the stems. A little bit too hard, and they don't taste very well either with this. Next step is we would cut the peppers here themselves. You could cut them into rings, you can cut them into strips, whichever you prefer. So what we used to do is we would cut them in half and throw them in the vegetable slicer, and it made them to all different kinds of sizes and shapes here with this. So you get a variety with this. And then after we cut them all up here with this, what we do is we put them in a bowl. We layer salt in with them in order to dry them out. Usually we let them sit a few hours, probably about 4 or 5 hours, in the salt in order to pull the water out of the peppers. And after that period of time here with this, we would mix in the same bowl with the water, the peppers and the salt, mix them up a little bit to get the salt off them, and then we would drain them overnight. After that, the next day comes here with this. Now this is where the canning comes into play here. So what we do here with this is we get our bowls back, put the peppers in it, and then we layer with our spices. Like I said, you can use anything what you want here with this. All we added was granulated garlic and oregano, and then of course the oil with this. So you can use anything you want here with this, whatever your taste is. Then after everything's all mixed up in the bowls, what we would do here is that we would put them in jars. You can use pints or quarts, whatever you prefer here with this. We use quarts ourselves because we do 50 bushels a week for about 3 months roughly with this. One important thing you got to know about when you do this in the jars, it doesn't matter if it's pints or quarts, make sure you leave a 1/2 inch on the top of the jar after you put the peppers and the oil and everything in the jar itself, because it needs that space in order to pull the air out of it, in order to create a vacuum in the jar itself. And then if you use other vegetables or other fruits, tomatoes, etc. with this, make sure you just follow the manufacturer guidelines in order for cooking them, because each of them would be different. And then after we cold pack them, what we do is we put them in the boiling water. It sits on a little rack inside of the pot. There's water covering it here, and that's what creates the seal here with this. And we can't argue with the results here either here with this. So I got a jar here from him, from the owner. He still makes it himself here with this. So like I said, he sells it in quite a bit of local stores in my area here with this. Or you can even order it online, which would be Baruzzi's hotpeppers.com with that. So in conclusion here, the process I use is because I'm very, very familiar with it, and I enjoy using it. I used it for years, didn't have any problems with it, and it works. And then I guess you can come to your conclusion. If there could be an analogy similar to 2 peas in a pod for multiple peppers in a jar. Thank you for listening, and you have a good night. Bye.